Cheers. What's up, everybody? We got a new flavor of LaCroix in the house tonight. A little coconut action. Go ahead and thank Chief for that. What's up, Hanger and Caladnar and Coder and Thydian and Takurius and Finn and that guy and Bron and Karuo. So many of my favorite people. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Mr. Marston is ready for day number 2. He's also ready to learn about Dr. Mick's approach to anxiety. He's going to sit tight in this here saloon while we talk about it. What's up, trolling? I'm excited as well. We're going to go down and hang out in the saloon while we talk tonight. Hey, Sammy. How are you tonight? Seems like a reasonable place to talk about anxiety, huh? Nice little calming saloon. Frankie. Hey, Frankie, I did get your email. I'm really sorry I didn't have a chance to respond to it yet. I am still, is there an absolute end deadline that you need me to respond by? Because I'm still trying to see if I can make it work on the 15th. Problem is, between me and my fiance, we only have one car. And I have to I got to figure out how I'm going to get out there, among some other things at work. So if you have a hard deadline, let me know. And thanks for the follow. I'm sorry that I didn't respond yet. Today was a crazy day. What's up, Barry Sachs? Yeah, I hear you on that one, Sammy. Yep, that's coconut. Interesting. Yeah. Thanks, Ben. I mean, I don't know if this is a good spot for me to ask you, but, is there, you said there's no website for me to see, right? Punched my computer last night. Ooh. How's your fist / how's your computer, Barry? Is it like pronounced coconut, or is it like there was one coconut dumped? No, it's actually pretty pronounced, to be honest, Karuo. Like, you can really tell that there's coconut flavor in here. It sort of tastes like the aftertaste of eating a Mounds bar. It's pretty intense. You know what? Let's see. Let's see. So Ben, it would be, if you're still in here, it would be 12-1 on the 15th. For Primary Care Week to showcase different. Yes, that sounds correct. Okay. How long would I talk? Hey, Matt. Yeah, Barry. If that's something that kind of freaks you out, that was a response that you had, and there are many good people out there that would be willing to talk to you about that. I'm glad that your computer still works. What's up, Floret? So what's the question? What's up, DJ? What question are you asking? What's what question, Floret? Hey, Rainlight. One sec, trying to see if I can find a link for you. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would appreciate that. What's up, Solid? You seem worn out tonight. Yeah, well, I mean, I had a long day. I had a session at 8 o'clock tonight, and they almost never do 8 o'clock sessions. So I got home really late. I took a nap while my fiance watched TV. I took a nap on her, basically lay on her lap, and so I'm still waking up from that. But yes, this will perk me up, Solid. So, all right. So, oh, that's so sweet of you to remember, Karuro. Yes, my finger is doing better, although you know what? So I have a really terrible habit of picking at my fingers and biting like the skin and the nails around my fingers. And so this part of my finger is better, but this part of my finger is now worse. So what are you going to do? That is so sweet of you to ask, Karuro. That means a lot that you remembered I hurt my finger. It was a thing. It was absolutely a thing yesterday. Alright, so I'm thinking... Alright, we'll hang out here. Man, I got 38 in here. Alright, that's probably a good enough time for me to start. Oh yeah, yeah, biting my nails has been a habit my entire life. I don't know that I call it delicious, but there's just so it's this. I always experience it as this desire to like get this all smooth, but it never is. So I always bite it thinking that I can smooth it out, and I never can. It's a really bad habit, but yeah. See, you get it, Karuro. I don't know. I don't know how many studies have been done about like finger skin biting or whatnot, but I don't know. There's something about it. It's like an aesthetic thing. So I'll pick, like I pick at my thumbs a lot, but yeah, I think it's a manifestation of my anxiety too, Kaladnar, and just stress. And I had a long day today, so I was picking a lot at my skin today. But all right. Oh, what's up, Depiri? So here's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna let Mr. Marston hang out in the background here. As everybody talk about how they've punched a computer. I've actually broken a controller once. Playing NBA 2K10 with Sean H. That was fun. Alright, so let's make sure that this is going to work properly here. So we're going to go What's up, Jack? All right. All right. That look good? That looks good. All right, hold on. All right, so we'll move this over just a hair. All right. Now that I know how to get this to work, oh, interesting. All right, so that actually changes the size even. Weird. Okay. Draw a penis, harvest power from rotating Sigmund Freud corpse. You know, not a bad idea. Oh, man. All right, so I'm going to... Okay, so I've been going back and forth all day of how I was going to do this. Once it became clear that this was going to win, I started a game plan, what we were going to do, or like how I was going to cover my approach to anxiety, because it's pretty nuanced. Oh, man. Hang in there, Hanger. Hey, Musty. Yeah, so I'm talking tonight about my approach to anxiety, and I figured Illustrator was going to be a good way for me to show a visual representation of how I approach working with anxiety therapeutically. So, obviously, this is not going to cover every single bit of it, because it's a nuanced approach, and it does depend on the person that I'm working with. But I am going to kind of give a general overview. So like some of it may resonate with you. Some of you may look at it and think, this is ridiculous. This would never work. Some of you might look at it and think, oh my God, this really speaks to me. I can adjust it based on the person, but this is kind of the general, like what's going through Dr. Mick's mind while he is working with anxiety. As I mentioned this in my Reddit AMA, but I will say this to all of you here as well, that like working with anxiety, particularly performance anxiety and social anxiety, but anxiety in general, is a clinical specialty of mine. It's something I have a lot of experience working with. I advertise myself as working with it. And I've worked anywhere from very moderate anxiety to like incredibly debilitating OCD. So, and everywhere in between. And I've found that this kind of general approach to working anxiety for me is really helpful. Both, Sammy. That's a good question, though. But no, this is how I generally approach working with anxiety for clients that come in. But it's also, I mean, I've adapted it to work with my own. And so I got to walk the walk. So, but I don't think there's a link yet since not all speakers have been locked down. I know your schedule's really packed, so I think however long you'd feel comfortable talking in time for some Q&A. Does that sound reasonable? Yeah, Ben, it does. Are you wanting me to talk about like therapy in general, or are you wanting me to talk about like my work with video games? I guess I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's expected of me. I hate to ask so many questions, Ben, but maybe you and I could correspond over Discord or something. If you have a Discord, you should drop me a DM on Discord, Ben, and we can maybe go back and forth and chat about it. Oh, that's actually a really cool question, Barry. So what is anxiety? So anxiety is in the most basic sense, and I really do mean this in the most basic sense. Anxiety tends to be fear of the unknown. Or it can be fear of the unknown, or it can be kind of an overcompensation for trying to anticipate the unknown. But anxiety usually manifests itself as a level of like fear, but it's generally it's a feeling that a person will generally experience in their body. Depends on the person in terms of where they experience it, although I commonly hear that people feel it as like a pit in their stomach, or they feel it as like a weight behind their eyes. For me, it's usually a weight behind my eyes, or I can tell because I start fidgeting. But that's anxiety. Anxiety is something that literally all of us have. It is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. But certain people have different orientations toward anxiety in terms of like their level of how they talk about it. But so what I'm going to go through here is sort of like my general again, my general approach to working with anxiety. And so I'll leave plenty of chances for people to ask questions or whatnot. But okay, so a person comes in, they tell me, hey, I've been experiencing a lot of anxiety, Dr. Mick. Like, I wanna figure this out. And generally what people say to me at the outset is, I want to get rid of my anxiety. And I tell each and every person that ever says that to me that this is not going to be a therapy where we just get rid of it. This is going to be another way for us to live with it. And if we do it over time, the proper way, but in the way that works for you, then your anxiety will feel less and less like it's a pervasive part of you and more just like it's a normal part that's totally manageable. Okay, girl, how often are you able to notice a patient's anxiety before they even notice it? I don't know. I would say moderately often. I think most people are in tune with their anxiety more than they like to lead on. But I can usually tell when a person's anxious. So, first it's going to be helpful for me to explain the way that I conceptualize. Okay, well, obviously anxiety. So anxiety is a feeling. Okay, and anxiety is generally something, again, that we experience in our bodies. We experience it as an emotional experience. Okay, but what happens is that feeling over time, what we do, I mean, think about what it's like in your head. What happens is we experience that feeling, and then we generally have a thought about it. Okay, or thoughts. Okay, those thoughts can sometimes be many and can kind of compound themselves. Okay, but they're what we tell ourselves about this feeling. Okay, any of you that are familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy are probably going to say that I'm doing cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's true, but it's a bit of a hybrid of emotionally focused and cognitive behavioral therapy. But this is what we tell ourselves about the feeling. Based on these thoughts and what we tell ourselves about the feeling, then generally what we have is the behavior or behaviors. And behaviors can be kind of embedded in a sequence. What we often have is that there is a reciprocal relationship or a recursive relationship between thoughts and behaviors. That is, that behaviors often reinforce thoughts and thoughts often reinforce behaviors. And all of that, again, is in response to a feeling. Okay? So, again, I'm speaking very generally here. But this is just so that we kind of all have a sense together of where I'm coming from. Okay? What people often come in... What's up, Krabby? People often come into my therapy office, and this is totally normal, and I'm not hard on people for this, but people often come into my office saying that they want that to change, that they want to get rid of the feeling. And without fail, I tell everybody every time, no can do. Okay? That the feeling in and of itself is not the problem. Okay, what's up, Bresler? Okay, so this feeling, this anxious feeling, is never the problem. And I'm sure that when I say that to some of you, that that probably doesn't jive, especially if you're a person that's particularly anxious or maybe hasn't thought much about it. But again, part of why I say when I sign off every night that your experiences are valid and don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, that includes yourself. When you have an emotional experience or a feeling, it's there for a reason, and it's not a problem because we're human and that's what we do. We have emotions. Yeah, you can always catch the video on demand, Hanger, but thanks for coming in and stopping in and hanging out. All right. So everybody following me so far? I feel like this is probably pretty simple, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Okay. What generally causes problems for people is some combination of this. Okay. I should also say that these two combined, well, no, actually I did said that they reinforce each other. But this problem, the problem people generally experience is when it comes to the thoughts and behaviors. And more often than not, you're going to see people really talk about the problematic behaviors. Okay. No problem, Kladnar. Okay. So what we often hear about is not that it's not when people come in to see me, it's generally not the fact that they're feeling anxious that's necessarily the problem. It's how it's manifesting itself. So whether it's a person who, has panic attacks, whether it's a person who doubts every single person that ever tells them that they're going to be okay, whether it's there's all sorts of things that maybe I pace around the apartment, or maybe I procrastinate, or I focus my attention everywhere besides my anxiety, right? Those are all behavioral and thought manifestations that end up causing us problems. And generally, these thoughts, I'm going to try and get rid of. Okay. And generally what happens is these behaviors are often in the spirit of trying to put distance between a person and their feeling. So it's kind of like trying to get away from it. So oftentimes these behaviors are avoidance seeking. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we move away from avoidance seeking behaviors in the context of anxiety, because avoidance seeking behaviors actually maintain anxiety and can make it worse over time. Okay, cool. Thanks, Ben. I'll respond, Ben. I'll get back to you either after the stream or in the morning. But I will make sure that I DM you on Discord, that I respond to you on Discord. That'll be a better way for us to coordinate. What do you mean, Karuro? Is what always the case? As it relates to anxiety, Karuro, avoidance-seeking behaviors are generally always bad. And the reason avoidance-seeking behaviors make anxiety worse over time is generally because what happens is it basically reinforces a thought that the anxiety is unbearable. So, and also what Solid said. So when you engage in avoidance-seeking behaviors, you're just further reinforcing the thought that anxiety is intolerable and that it's unmanageable, and that it's something that you should have distance between rather than be closer to. And so that's generally an issue. So, is this separate from the context of I can't deal with worrying about it, I'm just going to push through it? Yes, because pushing through it is generally an acknowledgement that it exists. Okay, so any thoughts and behaviors that are in the spirit of putting distance Okay, any thoughts and behaviors that are in the spirit of putting distance from anxiety, I generally conceptualize as being not good, or not healthy, because it's going to either crystallize or exacerbate anxious feelings over time. Okay? All right, so that's kind of the general framework. So now I'm going to kind of zoom it in a little bit here and show you how I work with people. So this seems to materially link the anxiety about a task with the task itself. Yeah, you could put it that way, Karuro. Okay, so the way that I think when I'm doing therapy is in terms of patterns and sequences. And so what I'm looking at when I'm working with a person is I'm looking at the core sequence that I would call the problem sequence. Okay. I'm calling this the problem sequence as it relates to anxiety. Okay. That problem sequence always starts with the feeling. Okay. And then that core sequence is going to be a sequence that generally stays the same. Would you say the best approach to anxiety then is to hitting it on head on? To an extent, Bresler. So I would say that it's basically forming a new relationship with your anxiety. Okay. So I'm going to give these little purple lines. What these purple lines are like extra contextual variables that contribute to a core sequence, but the black sequence here is essentially the kind of core sequence of anxiety, of sequence of thoughts and behaviors as it relates to anxiety. I was on a med for a while that can cause anxiety. Now I'm crazy anxious all the time, even when I'm off the med. Is it due to thoughts or behaviors being reinforced over time? Well, maybe. I mean, general would make sense. This is not my issue. Well, Jinx, as we go through this, see if it fits for you. What's up, work? Hey, Victoria. By the way, Victoria is a legit bona fide social worker. She proved it today. Back channel, DM'd me. So shout out to Victoria for being a real social worker. So, okay. So what we have here is what we would conceptualize as being the problem sequence, okay? And again, that sequence always starts with the feeling. So then what I'm working on is getting an understanding of this sequence. But then what I'm doing with somebody is I want to get a feel for what is what I would call your solution sequence. You might also consider this to be a person's goal. Okay? So, what stays consistent, however, is that the start of this sequence is still the same feeling. Okay. So Musty, the purple is so the black is kind of the core problem sequence, and the purple are like little contextual parts of a sequence that might reinforce it, but aren't always present. So they're not always consistent, but they're still important and sort of worth noting. Okay. So those purple pieces might still be evident sort of over here, but there might be fewer. They're less important. They're just important to know about. Okay, so what this means is that I'm looking at with a client, assuming that the feeling stays the same. Okay, what we would do is take maybe each arrow. Number these just for the sake of being able to illustrate this, okay? So 1 being the feeling. Okay. Now let's imagine, as I do an assessment of this, that number 2 here is a thought, and that thought is, I shouldn't feel this, or it's not okay. This is probably the most common thought that I see in relation to a person experiencing anxiety. Is the person will have a thought that comes in that says something along the lines of, I shouldn't feel anxious, or it's not okay that I feel anxious. Okay? That's a thought that is generally going to cross a person's mind. Yeah, solid. So having some level of shame for the fact that the person's experiencing anxiety. So again, this is just for the sake of simplicity here. Yeah, or I don't have time for this. Yeah, any variation of this. Go away might be the second, or it might be the number 3 here in this sequence, that a person says to themselves, go away. And then the number 4 is an avoidance behavior. Okay? This is an overly simplified sequence. This would tend to be a lot more in depth. An example of a purple part of this might be like receiving reinforcement that this needs to go away. Okay? Or basically somebody helping the person engage in an avoidance behavior. Okay? Are low self-esteem and anxiety correlated? They can be, Kaladnar, but it depends kind of on the person. I think that a person with low self-esteem is generally going to have a self-defeating narrative around their anxiety that would say something along the lines of, I'm not capable of handling this. So there could be a thought in here, maybe whether it's one of these purple ones or part of the core sequence, that I'm not capable, I can't handle this. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could call these reinforcers if you wanted to, Kuro, and call them external, but sometimes they're internal. Like, it might be that, like, depending on context, a person says, something along the lines of "go away," and this is not the time. Like, it could be something that goes in here, whereas maybe they wouldn't say this is not the time in another context. Okay, but again, overly simplistic way of looking at this, but this is just to try to illustrate the point without getting too complex. My assessment of this is generally happening over the course of like 3 sessions or so. Best way to help them cope through positive reinforcement. I know it's not cut and dry between all patients. Well, Bresler, you're probably going to be wanting to help in more of a sense of engaging the person as best you can in what I'm going to describe here. So maybe what I'm about to talk about will answer the question. So what I'm looking to do is highlight this sequence with a person, and then what we're doing is we're moving over here and basically running it could work. Yep, sure could. Okay. So what I'm going to do is run a parallel solution sequence with the person. So what I'm going to ask the person is, I'm going to tell them, first of all, your feeling has to stay the same. So you're still going to feel the anxiety, and we're not going to change the anxiety. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on what we would change in terms of your thoughts and behaviors, because you're capable of changing those in the context of still feeling anxious. So the first thing that I'm doing is asking a person, okay, so instead of saying, so now we have to think about your ideal world. So this is hypothetical. At first anyway, until a person's able to achieve it, okay? But we're going to say, if you, instead of saying, I shouldn't, or it's not okay, we're going to take more of a compassionate view towards your anxiety. So what does that sound like for you? Okay, and so what we're going to imagine, and so you would be surprised that people really have a hard time answering this question, because most people don't think about what they would replace it with. They just say like, I wouldn't say that. And so I make it very clear to people up front, your goal can never be to not be something. That your goal has to be, like, we have to replace a thought and replace a behavior with something else. You can't have the absence of it. So in an ideal world, you feel anxious. Instead of telling yourself that it's not okay, what would you rather do? And generally, it's some variation of I see it. So acknowledgement, and it's okay. Okay. So I'm anxious. I feel it. You don't get to change that. But when you experience it, then being able to say, okay, I see you. You're here. Okay. Then generally number 3, okay, or what comes after that is a question. So is a curiosity question. Which would be, what do you want for me? Essentially, what's the function of my anxiety? Because what people don't realize often, because they get so wrapped up in their shame, is that anxiety very much is functional. It's a very functional emotion. For some people, anxiety is motivating. For other people, anxiety is a protector. And it could depend on context in terms of like what role it's taking on. But being curious about, hey, anxiety, like, why are you here and what do you want from me? So you can see that it's more of like a curious, compassionate type view for anxiety. And it's all in the spirit of trying to kind of draw somebody closer to their anxiety rather than putting distance in it. But I'm working with a person to kind of find the language that works for them around this. Okay. So instead of saying I shouldn't, they say I see you and it's okay. Hey, I discovered your channel because you were playing Star Wars Battlefront. At first I didn't know what you were talking about with psych stuff. Now I understand a bit better. I'm facing a lot of shit. Glad I'm here. Hey, I'm glad you're here too, James. I'm glad you found me. It's great to have you in here. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through a hard time, but this community is amazing. So I'm glad that you hang around and that you hang out with us, because you'll find some really awesome support here. And every Monday I do this. So, but yeah. So I need to get this work done, so I'm anxious about it. But if I'll get it done, for example, yes, that would be a good example, Jinx, for sure. Okay. So, all right. So then what we're looking at is, yeah. See, look how wonderful everybody is. No, you're in an awesome place, James. Glad to have you here. In your experience, are public school therapists reliable? In my experience, Cheese, yes. But I know some people have not so great experiences. But yeah, I'm a believer in school counselors generally. They're generally really overworked and don't receive a ton of support, but they're better than nothing, in my opinion. But again, I know there are bad experiences that people have out there, but in my experience, yes, they are reliable. Is it safe to say sometimes that anxiety isn't rational, or would you say that there are always some rational force behind it? Feelings are, I think the experience of a feeling is rarely rational, K-Girl, but there's generally a somewhat of a logistical explanation for why a feeling exists, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So, what do you want from me? Again, asking a question, having a space of curiosity. Okay, and then, and this is going to depend on context. So I'm going to put this in green, but purple sort of applies. Is is I'm going to do X. Okay. And so the idea behind this, and that's going to be kind of its own little sequence of behaviors, perhaps, okay, depending on context. But the idea is, and this is, so here's the analogy that I use all the time. For those of you that are, football fans or into sports, Aaron Rodgers is probably the best quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, when he goes out on the field every day and plays football every Sunday and is as amazing as he plays football and he plays quarterback well while feeling anxious. Like, I guarantee you that he experiences anxiety. And a lot of people that have really debilitating anxiety will look at a person like that and say, oh my God, he's not anxious. But that's generally not true. We're all anxious. It's just kind of the way that we manage it. And so the idea here is that you're going to have this anxious feeling, and then you're going to kind of alter the meaning that you're making out of it, and then be able to do the thing that you want to do while still feeling this. Okay? So you've brought yourself closer to it. You have a better understanding of what it is. And then I still am going to do X. I am capable of doing this, right? So there might be some meaning-making structures in here that reinforce this in terms of a person being able to say, like, I'm going to do this. But that's what we're looking at. Okay? Is everybody following me on this so far? Because there's a third part, but I want to make sure that everybody's clear on this before I go to the third part. And we're going to read what everybody said. Thought of not getting an A on paper and easy. Yep, no, that's a common one, Bresler. That's performance. It's a level of performance anxiety. Very interesting story about learning not to put my entire self-worth in my grades. It was not a fun process, but necessary. Yeah, I think many of us in academia have been there, Victoria. Okay. Again, this is going to have way more nuance based on the person. So I'm doing this in like basically 3 sessions. No problem, Barry. You can always catch the video on demand of this. So it'll be here if you need to catch me doing it again. Okay. And so, yeah, some of this can be anticipatory anxiety and whatnot, but again, this is sort of, I'm talking about anxiety in the moment. All right. So, it's not really realistic to expect that a person is going to be able to do this right away, as I could imagine, as you could imagine, right? Oh, thank you for the, I'm guessing you subscribed to my YouTube. I don't have a cool gift for that, but thank you. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to say to that person, like, I believe that you are totally capable of doing this. Okay? And I absolutely believe that there are strengths within each and every person that allows them to be able to do this. And so what I'm going to do is either in the room, if I have time, or so when I send somebody out of the room, what I'm going to say is, the next time that you experience this feeling, I want you to try and do this. Okay? And inevitably, what happens is a person comes back to me and says, I couldn't do it. Okay? And that's okay. Really patient, really compassionate for that. It's not easy to alter this overnight. This is something that takes time. Okay? And so then what I'm asking a person is, what color do I want to use here? Real blue. Is what kept you from being able to do that? And what we call these are constraints or barriers. Okay. So, what's up, Gecko? So the idea here is that there is something that keeps a person from being able to access their strengths and do this. And this could be one thing, this could be multiple things. This is totally dependent on a person's context. And so what we're doing in therapy, because we have agreed, I've reached consensus with the client on this solution, okay, is what I'm doing then is working with a client to remove whatever it is that's keeping them from being able to do this. Okay. Sometimes it's just, I don't even think of how to do this, in which case one thing that we might be doing is putting a reminder up, like writing it on your hand, or putting it visually in a person's space. Sometimes it's working with the people in that person's system to help them reinforce this. Okay, kind of working with the entire system around this instead of just working with an individual. That usually works even better than working with an individual. But these constraints are going to be relative to the person. And this is also how I'm going to determine what model of therapy to use, and also kind of like what types of interventions I'm going to do. Okay. So if there's a constraint related to a person's family of origin experience, I'm going to use some model that talks about family of origin. If it has something to do with a person's, dampened sense of emotion, I might be doing something with emotional focus therapy or with experiential therapy. If it's that a person is just overly focused on this problem sequence instead of the solution sequence, I might do something solution focused. It's just really going to depend on what these constraints are. So, Caruo, I know. Aaron Rodgers is awesome, but so yeah. So just kind of to recap what my entire approach is I'm doing an assessment for a person's core problem sequence as it relates to the feeling of anxiety, and it always starts with that. And we're going to map out specifically for that person what their sequence is. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to work collaboratively with the person to generate a solution sequence where the feeling is still the first part of it, okay, where that doesn't change. And so then what we're doing is we're working together to map out what their ideal would be, and I'm working collaboratively with the person to generate that, okay? And then what we're doing is we're going to send that person out to try and do this, and then we're going to figure out what keeps the person from being able to do that, and then I'm going to intervene with that person based on what that is, so that hopefully what happens is we are able to remove these constraints and the person is able to engage in that. Okay, and then once a person's able to do this and to do this consistently and it's been reinforced, therapy's done. So, have you considered being a professor when you get older? You seriously make this so understand. Bresler, I am a professor. I know I look young, but I actually do teach at a university. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that compliment very much. I value that a lot. Jinx, how do you suggest they deal with fear or terror of the situation, though? Like not a life-threatening event, but it feels like one. So, Jinx, so sometimes for people, that anxious feeling here is experienced as a really deep-seated fear. And what we're doing is I'm working on a person's distress tolerance for that and helping, but it's still similar, is I'm trying to figure out what's fueling that fear. And kind of what meaning system and what behavioral. So again, if a person's really experiencing something as just debilitating, so like if we use me with needles, for example, in terms of a phobia, I would engage in avoidance-seeking behaviors as it relates to anytime I would have to encounter a syringe. So like I wouldn't go to the doctor's office, or I wouldn't, or like I'd go into shock, or I would like try and run away. Like those are all avoidance-seeking behaviors. And so that can actually, that's what I mean by how like anxiety can build up over time if a person's engaging in avoidance seeking behaviors, because it can make anxiety that much more overwhelming and scary. All right. Good night, Kaladnar. As always, thank you for being here. It's interesting. So is it still a problem if the solution sequence includes avoiding or compartmentalizing anxiety as a next step towards achieving the goal? So what we're talking about, Karuro, is maybe trying to move from an avoidance behavior to a distraction behavior, but we're still going to change the person's thought system here. But no, I'm generally not going to allow a person to conceptualize their solution sequences including an avoidance behavior, and I'm going to explain the reason that that's not cool is because of the fact that if they have an avoidance seeking behavior, it's going to make the anxiety worse over time. So, by the way, shout out to anybody who's lurking right now. Totally love that you're here. It's cool that you're not. It's cool if you're not chatting, but I just wanted to say, like, I see you, and it's awesome that you're here, and I hope that I hope you're having a good night and that you're learning something. I just joined you today, so sorry if this has been asked, but my anxiety instantly makes my stomach upset. Any tips for that, or would there be medicine type thing to solve it? That's a common manifestation of anxiety, DJ. And I think if it's, it's something worth talking to a therapist about, but in terms of a medicine type thing, I don't know. Sometimes people get like acid reflux in response to anxiety, and you could take Tums or something, but that's not professional advice. That's just a Band-Aid basically, but if it's debilitating enough and the anxiety is debilitating enough, it's worth talking to a therapist about, DJ. Yeah, Imder, you're welcome anytime. This is the greatest Twitch community there is. Seriously, a lot of really loving people in here, really a lot of amazing people in here. Seems like over time, reaching goals anyway would be a good way to combat the initial anxiety response. Well, what happens, Karuro, that's actually a really cool point. What happens is you start to get, success here starts to reinforce this. And as this gets reinforced over time, that is what makes anxiety diminish. Okay? Is a person's solution sequence being reinforced by their system. So that's why I like working in the context of a couple or in the context of a family, because I can help everybody reinforce the solution sequence, and there's going to be a lot more success over time. So yes, it can be, James, it can be an avoidance behavior. It depends on the way, there's a lot of context that goes into that, and I would have to do an assessment with a person to know. But generally what happens is an avoidance behavior is a way to not acknowledge anxiety. It's sort of a way to try and stuff it. Whereas a distraction behavior is acknowledging that anxiety is there, but also acknowledging that something needs to happen now, but I'll return to it. A distraction is better than avoidance. Yes, distraction is better than avoidance, but what if both trigger my anxiety? Then I would say that, it's probably not a distraction at that point then, Cheese. It's something that's reinforcing the anxiety. Well, I appreciate the compliment, Best Baker. It's an honor to know that I am with you as you bake. Hey, Chief. Hey, Chief, look what I got. I got this specifically because of your suggestion. I just wanted to give you a shout out. It's because of you, Chief, and it's pretty damn good. An example of how avoidance can build up the feelings surrounding whatever it is. If you're ever anxious about something a long time, then when you do whatever and you feel like, wow, I was so worked up about, could it be because avoiding it so much made it seem way worse than it was? Self-made boogeyman? No, that happens all the time, Solid. And what I sometimes say tongue-in-cheek to people is that if you worry about the unknown and in a way that's really I think harmful or hurtful, that what you do is you make yourself miserable twice. And here's the other thing. A little fun tidbit here. Sometimes what happens with anticipatory anxiety is people engage in what we would call defensive pessimism, which is that they basically plan for the worst to happen. And here's the thing. If you plan for the worst to happen and you solely focus on the worst possible outcome, what happens is that's the only thing you've prepared for. And so the idea that the worst wouldn't happen is going to create anxiety, and this sort of ties into the schema talk that we had last week. But what can actually happen with defensive pessimism is that if something good happens, or if the worst doesn't happen, a person experiences more anxiety because it's not what they prepared for. So when you prepare for the worst, it's the only thing you prepare for, and that is not healthy. So I am generally trying to coast people away from that. I had to leave for a bit, so I might have missed something that answered this, but what if an avoidance-seeking behavior is also keeping somebody physically safe to some extent, like avoiding places because of the possibility of someone who has tried to kill or kidnap you being there? Okay, so Finn, I think anytime that a person is... engaging in a behavior that's keeping them safe, I mean, this is where context comes in, where, like, obviously I want you to be alive and I want you to be safe. However, if that is if that behavior is not rational based on observable data, like if it's not objectively reasonable for that person to maintain that fear of that place and engages in an avoidance-seeking behavior as a result, or does it sort of in a different context where that wouldn't be reasonable, so sort of carrying that meaning system into another context where maybe it's not helpful, that could be a problem. But if it is something that's maintaining a person staying alive, like, that's where context matters a lot, Finn. I know, right? This is great that we're in the saloon while we're talking about this stuff. Again, if you're in here and you're new, welcome in. This is Monday Mental Health Topic Choice Night for my community. They vote in the Discord server about what mental health topic they'd like for me to talk about on Mondays, and tonight we're talking about my approach to working with anxiety because I'm a associate licensed couple and family therapist, and I have a PhD in human development. So that's why I'm talking about this stuff. These were, Bron, yes, absolutely. Everybody in this salon, or everybody in this saloon right now, look how captivated they all are. Like, this guy's been hanging out here just listening. The guy on the piano's having a good time. The sex worker's just hanging out on the couch listening to us. The guys at the bar. It's good stuff. Why'd you put professor in quotes, Mac? Yeah, inner demon. Defensive pessimism is brutal. Oh man, there we go. We're getting all sorts of meta. You don't have the big hair. Yeah, I know. No, I'm actually in the pipeline to be appointed as an assistant professor, so I'm not a full professor, but. Or the tweak. I know I need the elbow patches. I gotta get elbow patches on my Golden Knight sweater. That would be awesome. I should actually get somebody to sew some patches on here because I really wear this. I wear this sweatshirt on stream all the time. So yeah, this is my approach. Like, I mean, to some extent, it might seem like it's simple, but in many ways, this is the core of how I'm approaching anxiety with people. It's helping them get in touch with their emotional experience, and then helping a person feel empowered to empowered in the context of feeling anxious, because again, we all experience anxiety, and anxiety is not in and of itself a bad thing. So you need a tweed jacket and a pipe. I know. Well, I have. Check it out. I mean, there is this emoji. This is the tier 2 emoji. There is me with the mustache and pipe. So you know it does exist. It is a thing. All right. So why don't we play some Red Dead now? I think if you see the bigger version of it, Victoria, it looks all right.
The only reason to do this job is the free folks you get down at the whorehouse.
What in tarnation are you talking about, Mr. Marston? What in tarnation kind of anxiety are you talking about? Your perspective of working with anxiety. Anxiety ain't nothing. Also, you could make the argument that this man's alcohol consumption is an avoidance behavior for his anxiety for the time period that he's in. What's up, Gasso? I don't know, Sammy. You could be made of money. But see, this guy, look at this guy engaging in avoidance behavior. What did I just talk to you about, sir? Where are you an associate professor right now, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah, Bresler, I actually, so this stream is a side project, and I don't represent that the university that I work at, and I will not actually disclose it on stream where I work. Work, we could totally do that. Thank you so much for explaining this about anxiety. It completely makes sense, and hopefully it will help me address my own. I only get to see my therapist once a month or less often. Well, I hope so too, Jinx. Alcohol is definitely an avoidance behavior. Oh yeah, totally. No, it's okay. I appreciate you asking the question, Bresler. Maybe someday I'll be able to answer that question, but right now I have to make sure that I keep it separate. So. Psychoanalyzing video game characters. Actually, Mac and Cheese, we were doing that yesterday. I was talking about my theory about the Marshal, because the Marshal is I think the Marshal in this game is a really interesting character. That's part of why we're playing Red Dead together, is because we're talking about the relationships and the psyche of the people in this game. So, Vixen, I'm doing well tonight. I had a long day at work, but I was really looking forward to the stream tonight, so I'm really glad that we all got to that I'm here and that I'm hanging out with all of you. So let's go talk to the Marshal. Speaking of the Marshal. No, I know, Solid. That's the best part about this game, is everybody's really interesting and dynamic. That's part of what I love about it. LaCroix makes the top of your head look like a coconut husk. I've come to this hypothesis due to long hours on the field. I call it McMolly. I like that, Sammy. Is drinking still an avoidance behavior if you had a really annoying day? Not necessarily, Inner Demon. I think if it becomes a pattern, that's generally where it's an issue. If that becomes something that a person's relying upon in order to help them feel better, that's where it becomes an issue. So, I think that head hides the coconut control matrix. It could, you know. Hey, welcome back from lurking, Matt. Here we go. Let's talk to the Marshal. My man, the Marshal, who I think surrounds himself with idiots so he can feel better about himself and be this big dramatic figure.
Since you're here, you want to make yourself useful?
Not particularly.
Listen, son, I know you got a mission. But right now, I need another gun.
Why? What's happening?
We've had this problem for months with this group of bandits who are getting drunk and murdering settlers. Last night, they went to a big place up near Reachwood.
They burnt the place down, killed the men, burning most of them alive, and raped the women. Women folk then got their throats slit. One of them survived and walked in here this
Hey,
morning.
thanks for the follow, Odd Sauce. Appreciate it. Welcome in.
Will you ride with us?
All right.
See, John's interesting too, because John, like,
Gonna be a bloody job.
I don't think I know any other kind, sir.
this game came out, I don't remember what year this game came out, but it upscales on Xbox One X to 4K, so.
Hey, wait up!
But John always says yes. John's not so great with his boundaries. He generally comes in and says he doesn't want to do something, and then he will just be like, then he'll decide, you know what, never mind, I will do what you ask.
I hear you caught up with Mr. West Dickens.
I did. For a man who claims to have found a remedy.
Oh, we did catch up with Mr. West Dickens. Nigel West Dickens is the best character in this entire game. Fight me.
The result of years
You will never convince me otherwise. I love Nigel West Dickens.
Diarrhea of the mouth.
I wouldn't be so dismissive of science if I was you.
Yeah, no, like, so that's the thing. Like, the Marshal just has this, like, power complex, and I think he feels somewhat helpless, but I think he feels, like, really resentful towards all the people that he serves. And he just needs, needs this recognition of being smart, so he surrounds himself with idiots. But I think John is somewhat threatening to him.
We should check it out. Marston, Eli, go see what it is.
All right, Bresler, thanks for hanging out and being in here. It's always awesome to have you in here.
Ain't no survivors here. Marshal.
Mac, yeah. Yeah, that technology wasn't here yet.
Man, this don't look too good.
Somebody was so busy killing people they went and dropped their gun.
I don't think it does, Jinx. Acquired a new weapon. I don't want to select. Well, should I select a new weapon? Repeater carbine. Alright, fine. Alright, here we go. Let's go find out what happened to these women.
Let's stay on this road. Maybe the folks at Ridgewood Farm saw something.
What kind of
Where the
man
hell are
does
you
that?
going, Marshall?
Bunch of weak men. A pack of cowards is the most dangerous kind.
Okay, girl. Have I finished Red Dead 1 work? Yes, I have.
The other way around.
But I'm playing it on stream again because one,
At least that's how I see it.
I want to get hyped for Red Dead 2 as if I wasn't already hyped for Red Dead 2. But I don't want to play Red Dead 2 on stream yet because that'll deter people from watching because people don't want me to spoil it. So I love this game a lot. And it's a fun one to talk about like relationships with and psychoanalyze the people that are in the game. So, but yes, I have finished it before work. I actually really love the ending. One of the better endings in a video game, in my opinion. Oh man, look how desensitized we all are to death too. Like, they walk up here like, yeah, all right.
Those scumbags must still be around.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on, let's ride.
Yep. Well, don't give it away, Solid, because there's a lot of people in here that haven't played the game before. That's what's cool too. Is there's a lot of people in here experiencing it for the first time.
At least it wasn't my way.
Killing and thieving's never right, boy. No matter how you dress it up.
Unless it's ordered by a court of law.
This is for Xbox One X,
As well as
Jinx.
I do, Marshal. One way or another, some men gotta die.
Oh my God.
Can't see a soul anywhere. This ain't right.
Here we go.
Nobody's in the shed.
No, Vixen, that's on my list. I really want to play Detroit. Definitely on my list of games to play. Hey, Raya. This game's awesome. Wait a minute, I should probably get on my horse. What am I doing? Come here. But yeah, for a game that came out in 2010, this is absolutely gorgeous, upscaled. I mean, it just speaks to how like incredible Rockstar is with the stuff that they do. Now, granted, I know that they have some like some shady work practices, but
Come on.
here we go. Are they in
There's no
here?
good reason for that to be boarded up. Come on, John. Shoot that door open.
I like that the horses freak out. That is true, Karuro. It really is. All right, Matt. Have a good night.
Holy sweet mother of mercy.
Please, please don't shoot me. Some bandits came by and took us hostage. They're holed up in the farmhouse. Some of my family is being kept hostage inside.
Oh man, I'm gonna talk about traumatic.
Get into that house right now. My God.
Oh man, what terrible aim. There we go.
Just walk away.
Yeehaw, boys.
This has gone far enough. Get into that house and smoke those sons of bitches. What the?
Oh my god, Sammy. I shouldn't laugh at that, but
This ain't nice.
it's pretty damn funny.
Are you kidding?
Need to loot. Sorry, gentlemen. Need your ammo. Get out of my way, boy.
Hellfire. You're gonna die. There's the bitch. Stay with me.
Oh, brother.
Jesus wept.
I don't know why I'm sneaking around. I don't really need to.
You a pretty little thing. I'm gonna enjoy it. Stay close.
Make a break for the shed when the coast is clear. There'll be a deputy waiting for you.
No!
Nation.
No, 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 no. Damn, I would have had to act super fast there. Holy crap. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can race horse. You actually race horses with Bonnie. I did that yesterday. I'm sure there's more opportunities to do it.
All right, boys. We need
Oh,
to get
really? I
into
got to start all the way from here? I can't believe how fast that guy shot her.
I see him.
Damn, sure is a lot of them.
There's one of them.
Let's try this again. Ooh.
This has gone far enough. Get into that house and smoke those sons of bitches.
Here we go. Little collateral damage might be worth it in the end. I don't know, Llama.
Over there. Are you kidding me? This way.
Alright, I'm not looting yet.
There's the wrong damn lawman.
Dead.
It's just me and you, partner.
You and me gonna have ourselves fun. Oh my good God.
You're gonna be all right. Head for the shed in the back.
All
as
right,
soon as
here
it
we
looks
go.
clear. As soon as you can, make a run for the shed.
Yeah, got
Keep
it.
your head down.
There we go. That was better.
Unspeakable things to me.
Looks all clear, fellas.
That's tr- that is some trauma, Sammy. You got that right.
To the victor, the spoils.
You know, I'd actually never considered the prospect of that, Sammy. Like, that would actually be a really interesting premise for a game. Like, a character who's re-traumatized by the fact that they understand the alternative timeline. Like, that would be awesome. Oh, so there is a game that does that. Edge of Tomorrow follows that that premise? Do I really have to go out the front door? All right. Hey, thanks for the subscription to my YouTube. Much appreciated.
What have we got
Let's go over this way. I own Life is Strange, but I never played through it.
Escaping to the south, but then some robbers started chasing him down like wild dogs. I thought you were supposed to protect us, Marshal. You folk ain't men. You ain't nothing.
Oh, that's got to be quite the blow to the marshal to hear this.
To pay for with our lives. What is wrong with this country?
Not up, men. The man that kills the boss of that bunch gets $50.
It ain't about the money, Marshal. These are people's lives, people's homes.
Oh boy.
Let's go! Get on your horse, boy! All right, let's find those bastards. Come on.
Come on!
Yeah, you can, Gasso.
Do you think they might be headed for Fort Mercer, Marshal?
What? Williamson's men?
Maybe. All this sure looks like their handiwork.
Makes sense if they took
Bill Williamson.
Come on, Marshal. This might be our chance.
I love that his name is Bill Williamson. His name's technically William Williamson.
What's this beef with Williamson anyway, Marston?
Let's just say he
John Johnson, Steve Stevenson.
What the hell you talking about?
Some people I have the displeasure of knowing want him dead.
Why does that involve you?
We used to run in a gang together.
Yeah, right? It would totally fit, Gecko.
If this is how you treat your family, I'd hate to see what you do to your enemies.
That was a lifetime ago.
It's a pretty good look at how Marshall is viewed by the people he's supposed to protect, yeah.
Eyes up. You see that?
Well, it's true, and he seems to always be at odds with that.
Now, John. I didn't kill you before, but I sure as shit will now.
Get yourself down here, Bill. You know you ain't man enough to stop me,
There you go. Go for the fragile masculinity.
but I will.
You always did have a high opinion of yourself, John. Dutch always said you were an arrogant son of a bitch. I guess he was about right. Get him, boys! Everybody, take cover! In that shed!
Aren't company names usually two persons' surnames? So Johnson and Johnson could be two guys both called Johnson Johnson. So Johnson Johnson and Johnson Johnson. They could, Sammy.
Stand here. Stay in cover. Watch your head.
Oh boy.
Christ, that was close.
My God. That's it. Let her rip.
Oh, what a shot. I'm gonna shoot his head off.
You know you're gonna
Oh,
die,
boy.
right? You about to die, friend. Tell Bill he's a dead man.
Man, I shot that guy right in the heart, and he got right back up. Holy crap.
Look out. Here comes some more of them bastards.
How is that? How is this guy still alive?
Kill those rapists.
Okay. I don't know what's going on here.
Jimmy Williamson.
This is like the Alamo. Make our stand.
I'll kill every last one of you.
There we go. Finally got that guy. Boom.
I hope you got money for a funeral. Next time, run away.
Got it.
Look what I got here. This son bitch is still breathing. Come here, boy. Come on, Bessie. Give. Oh.
Norman Deek. Nice to see you again, buddy. Thanks for your help, John.
It's true,
Norman here's
Gecko.
gonna help us get to Bill.
John Marston.
Ain't you, Norman?
The marshal would probably say that it's John's ego.
Mighty kind.
Same with Bill Williamson.
Hog time. Let's get him to jail.
All right, look how proud the sheriff is of himself. Jobs in towns pay twice as much. Nice. All right, we gotta go loot. Go see what we got here.
What have you got for me?
It was Raisin. I can't. It's crazy to think about cocaine being in Coca-Cola. Like, God, as if caffeine's not enough. All right. They were near misses until luck ran out and you actually get hit. That's how it works in Uncharted, Karuo. Naughty Dog actually came out and said that.
Let's go.
Which I'm sure that's what you're referencing. Oh, I would hope so, Llama. That would be crazy if it was like a big dose. All right, we're gonna go talk to the stranger.
Come on. Come on.
There's lithium in 7-Up? Is there really? I did not know that.
Come on.
Oh, was. Okay, was is the operative word there. Okay. I'm gonna say like that can't be.
Come on.
I was just say people are gonna prescribe 7-Up to treat bipolar.
Like an angel from above.
What have we here?
Hello? Hello there.
Howdy, miss. What are you doing out here?
I'm thinking.
Have I seen you before?
Oh,
Saw her on the train.
on the train from Blackwater, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, you were talking with the preacher.
Yes, sir, I was.
I don't know if it's so safe out here, miss.
Oh, Jenny. You can call me Jenny. All right. I'm safe because I have faith. So, faith can move mountains. That's the whole point.
You're trying to move a mountain?
I love that John takes that literally.
Do anything. But with faith, I can achieve great things. I know that. I know it.
You want me to take you back into town, ma'am? You seem kind of unwell.
Oh, I get such clarity out here. I see things purely. The world is so beautiful.
And full of things that'll kill you. Including illness.
Nothing's gonna kill me, sir.
That's right.
Well,
I was just say heat exhaustion and a very consistent. I love how he just walks away. Really? Help Jenny by bringing her medicine. I have medicine, Jenny. Let's help her out.
Miss Jenny. Miss Jenny. Don't look like the Almighty's much inclined to help you out here. I was kind of worried about you, so I brought you some medicine.
Oh heavens! Oh, praise you, Lord! I knew you'd save me.
She's like one of.
You see, it was only through His will that you were ordered to save me. Tell me, were there angels in your vision?
Oh
Jenny.
boy.
Can I take you back into town?
Praise you, Savior. I knew you'd save me.
Thank you for the follow, AF.
Come with me?
Oh, I'm fine here, mister. I'm in heaven. Heaven.
Oh, man. Apparently, I was sent by God to play John Marston to save her. Wait, is that... So that's it, huh? Well, we did our best. I always wonder how surgeons feel when people just say, like, that God is the reason that the person survived rather than the surgeon. I feel like I'd get tired of hearing that. Okay, well, I guess that's it for her. I suppose she is an adult. She is accountable for deciding what she wants, but I'm thinking we talk to Mr. West Dickens.
Let's go.
Yeah, that would be a tough one for me too, K-Girl. I mean, at the same time, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit narcissistic of me. You know, I guess what's meaningful to a person is what's meaningful to them. I'm not trying to strip a person of that, but good night, Coder. As always, it's wonderful to have you in here.
My mistake, mister.
I'm sure she didn't, Llama. Oh God. Faith will allow her children to stay healthy. Alright, Mr. West Dickens. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean that's true, K-Girl, and I kind of fall back on that too.
And I can tell you,
Here we
with
go.
no uncertainty, that miracle cures are no laughing matter. I bid you good day, sir. Oh, Mr. Marston.
I can't help but laugh every time I talk to him.
I'm well, Mr.
Mr. West Dickens. Nigel West Dickens of East Cheap, London, New Waverly, New York, and Armadillo, New Austin. At your service.
At my service.
At everyone's service. At the service of science, of knowledge, of life.
How are your wounds?
Hmm? Much, much better. But then they would be.
Would be.
I know a cure for all ailments, Mr. Marston.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you do. And I'm sure for just $2 an ounce, I could live forever.
Oh, but for you, sir, I do a bulk discount rate of $1.95 an ounce. As long as you buy 100 ounces or more. That's a lot of immortality.
Give it up, old man.
That's Mr. West Dickens to you, boy.
Give it up, old man.
Listen, Marston, I'm broke, but this stuff is good. It works. I need a healthy young man like you. Come along, let's ride over to my newest customer at Ridgewood, and I'll explain while we go.
Okay.
And John always says okay. Like I feel like John never ever follows his gut ever. And it's interesting because like I think John has pretty good intuition, but he just like it's like he doesn't trust his own convictions. I mean, granted the narrative probably wouldn't move forward very well, but
And I about you, John Marston.
Hoodwinking the weak, gullible out of their hard-earned money.
My dear boy, it's you who is gullible, if I may be so bold, for heeding such ill-informed...
I mean, he would certainly pique my curiosity, that guy. I love how John is always like no and then yes.
For that, I will not apologize. But the West Dickens elixirs speak for themselves. My thousands of happy customers...
Thousands of happy customers.
Trying to kill you didn't look so happy.
Skepticism is the bastard child of progress, John. If my tonic is such a gem, how do you explain the fine fettle in which you find me? Last time you saw me, I was knocking at death's door.
You should thank the doctor for that. I reckon you were acting it up worse than it was.
Act I can, John. A more convincing Othello there has never been. And so shall you. A fair
Oh,
Iago
my God.
or Cassio.
I don't like the sound of this.
Showmanship, John.
The flourish, the bow.
We are operating in a competitive marketplace. Our product must stand out.
And how does this involve me?
We're going to use your God-given talents to our advantage.
He certainly is a salesman.
I'll drop you off at the outskirts of Ridgewood. That way, it won't look like we came together. Once I'm set up, saunter nonchalantly into the crowd that is sure to be forming. Eventually, I will call you up to try my tonic. After extolling the virtues, I will have you perform a few feats of wonder to amaze.
At least he gives John credit for being smart enough to know that he's full of shit.
Oh, nothing out of the ordinary for a man in your line of work, I assure you. You hop out here, John. Follow me in on foot. I'll see you there. Be ready to enchant.
It's
the
true,
crowd.
Vexthorn. It is true. I saw that story on Reddit and was like, wow. By the way, welcome in, Vexthorn. I don't think I've read your name before. It's awesome to have you in here. Yeah, I think John's conflicted about his intelligence. Like, on one hand, he's smart, but then it's a reminder of, you know, how not so smart. Although, you know, it's interesting. A lot of the characters in this game are really smart. Absolutely, Vex. All right, let's see what my man Nigel's up to here. That would be crazy for it. Here we go.
Friends, hard-working souls of Chola Springs, gather round, gather round. Do you suffer from rheumatism, lumbago, acute chronic sciatic, neurologic or inflammatory pain? Well, I represent the only company that makes the genuine article that cures headaches, neuralgia, earache, toothaches, backache, swelling, sprains, sore chests, swelling of the
Anxiety,
throat,
bipolar,
cords,
depression.
muscles, anxieties and ravaged
There it
nerves,
is.
stiff joints, wrenches, dislocations, cuts and bruises, and it adds vitality and vigor to the healthy man.
But can you prove it, old man?
Oh, I'm sure there's some customer here who could prove the qualities of it by taking a drink right now. You, sir, come up here. Step right up.
The person who clearly doesn't fit in here.
That's the spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, pay close attention. This poor, wretched volunteer entirely...
Cheese, it depends on the extent of the relationship.
Chicken's own patent tonic.
It's a hard one to answer. It depends on the person and kind of whether it constitutes a dual relationship.
This miraculous elixir developed with the wisdom of the East keeps the muscles supple and relaxes the cords. It loosens the joints and gives a feeling of youth and vigor to the whole system. Not possible, I hear you say. Well, doubt no longer. Faith can move mountains, but I ask not for faith. I am a man of science, and today...
Right, I mean, Nigel West Dickens is... I want to work in Nigel West Dickens' practice.
Your eyesight is greatly improved. Is that not so, friend?
If you say so.
That's right, it is. You heard him. What a good sport you are, sir. Now, gaze over yonder at that port.
But John, like, at some point, John becomes complicit in this.
The skull that's hanging there. Go ahead, friend. Shoot that skull and demonstrate the miraculous eyesight you now possess.
Taking advantage of the people in this town's not being so smart. Like, I feel conflicted even doing this.
Shoot it now,
my friend, while remarkable, the eyesight of an eagle, granted by imbibing Dr.
But I've done it.
Weston's own patent tonic.
Anybody can make that shot. This
Right, Florida.
If your eye's so damn sharp, why don't you try shooting my hat out of the air?
My friends,
Ah, a man has volunteered as tribute. And John's just not even going to question it. John's just going to be like, yep,
sky above our
I can do this.
You can fool these people, but you ain't fooling me. Right. Let's just see how sharp you is with a moving target.
Yeah, Vex. Well, that's the thing. It's like, at what point does John become complicit in this? Which I would say right now he is.
See? That tonic is a sham.
Okay. Whoops.
But I dare you.
Do not write him off yet. He is still adjusting to the powerful tonic.
As soon as he boarded the cart. That's right. As soon as he went against his own intuition.
Sharpshooter.
Like, I don't feel sorry for John for being complicit in this stuff because...
Here comes the throw.
I thought we was here to see miracles.
Wait, press the right stick. What the hell?
I dare you.
Do not write him off yet. He is still adjusting to the powerful tonic.
Well, you want
That's exactly... Well, that's the thing. Gotta use Deadeye, right? I pushed the right stick in, right?
Steady yourself.
Press right stick while your weapon is drawn.
you ready to get embarrassed
That's
again?
going... That's not the right... What the hell? That's not working.
Get ready. He's about to throw it.
Oh, there we go. Alright, I got it. Throw it. Come on.
Go home.
Have you ever seen such an eye? Behold the power of the elixir, plucked out of the sky.
Hey, hey. What? You think you can put a hole in a man's hat and just walk away? Do you?
That's what you told me to do, man.
Come on. Are you a man or not?
A challenge of battle has been offered to our volunteer.
And then, of course, Wes Dickens has to,
Herculean brawl.
Say good night, friend.
Look at that! Inhuman strength!
Hell off me.
oh, man.
Skeptics and dissenters, irrefutable proof. Do not let this opportunity pass you by. Look, he's over there. Go get it.
Oh, man. Here we go. Escalation protocol.
Who do you think you are? You ain't leaving here alive.
Marvelous shot, dear boy. The kind of deadly accuracy that can only be afforded by the West Dickens elixir. Come, I have plenty for all.
Look at that. Yep. And I am dirty. I am complicit.
No harm in trying one bottle, I suppose.
All right, Finn. Have a great night. We love you too.
Went kind of well, don't you?
I'm just glad that my normal job involves either chasing after cattle or murderers. Not the likes of you.
See, and then John presents as if
Now, if you'll
people
excuse
need to
me,
feel sorry
I'd
for
like to
him
say
for the
my
decision
goodbyes
that he
and
made.
head on
He's
back to
just
the
like the
railroad.
marshal.
Wait, sir. I've been thinking about your predicament, and I think I may have an idea. I've been thinking I could be your cunning Odysseus. Beware of the Greeks burying gifts, sir. Williamson had better beware. We will make them into Trojans.
I don't rightly get you.
I want you to go and see my
You
old
do
friend
get him though,
Seth.
John.
He can come across as a little curious, but I'm sure you two will get on. He's most often found at Coots Chapel. He's very devout.
Why see him?
Because between him and me, we can get those gates to open for you, and you can walk right in, just like in Homer's great Trojan yarn. Hello there.
All right. The man can sell.
Well, hello there.
Meet Seth in Coots Chapel. I think we ought to pay a visit to Miss McFarlane. Here's my horse at. you go through the psychoanalysis of the characters in GTA 5. That would be interesting. It's been a while since I played GTA 5, so I don't know that I could do it like off the cuff right here. But that would be, I mean, Trevor is, I mean, Trevor's Trevor, and he's certainly like a trope. But I do think that Michael's a good representation of like, I think of like kind of depression and anxiety and how it manifests as anger. And but honestly, Lamar Davis is my favorite character in that entire game. I love Lamar so much. Good night, Cheese. Thanks for being here. But country folk, well, see, that's what makes Nigel West Dickens really interesting, Carrillo, because no, like I really don't think they would.
Let's go.
I don't know that it would be of any use. Well, other than it just, I think to people who really aren't particularly smart, that makes him look credible, perhaps. Fair enough, Sammy. Hi, Ix. How are you? Welcome in to the greatest Twitch community that's out there. I'm glad to have you here. How's it going? I don't remember if I asked you how it was going. Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Ooh, perhaps I'm gonna go. Let's talk to the stranger here. Let's see how else John can go against his better judgment.
Howdy. Well, howdy.
Well, howdy.
Mind if I rest up at your camp a spell?
Well, it'd be my pleasure. Man needs a break from this desiccated land.
Thank you, mister. Say, what's that stick you got there?
I do too, Playful.
Y'all ain't never seen a dowsing rod before, mister? Never seen a man summon the water up from the bare earth? Mr.
Marston.
Ah.
No, can't say I have. If it's water you're looking for, what's wrong with that lake over there?
Oh, there ain't nothing wrong with Lake Don Julio. Nothing wrong with it, but we lack the fancy irrigation equipment you folks have back here.
Everybody makes the assumption that John's from the city.
He needs a wellspring on his property to ranch here.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Why, you know, just last week, I was over at Old Pleasant's house. Now, I think I may have found
Good night,
something.
DePury. Thanks for hanging out.
Old coot that owns the place threatened to call the law down on me, so...
People act funny around strange men with sticks.
They sure do. Damn fools. Bet you he don't even know how much water's running underneath his property.
Proper top.
You want me to tell him?
You know what? You ain't that stupid, mister. And I can tell. I'll tell you what. Why don't you go get the old man to sell us his property for a small pittance? Then I can find the source of the water, build us a proper wellspring.
Maybe I will.
Well, all right.
Easy enough. Can be talked into anything. Yeah, Gecko, it's true. Well, we did have the I don't know if you were here for it earlier, but we did talk about my my approach to working with anxiety earlier, which looked a lot like that. So we did have a little chat.
What are you dawdling here for? There's money to be made.
There's money to be made, yes, sir. You ain't that stupid, mister. It actually is. That is a legit compliment. Which also suggests that that person is smarter than he appears. That or he's street smart. Oh, here we go. Here's the man in the suit playful. This will be particularly interesting for people who haven't played this game. This is a cool, I will say, for those who haven't seen this before, this is a really cool side quest and interaction.
Hello, John Marston.
Do I know you?
I hope so. I seem to know you.
I'm pretty good at remembering faces.
Are you? Do you remember Hattie McCourt's face?
Who?
She was a girl Dutch Vanderlyn shot in the head on that raid on the ferry a few years back. Same one you got shot on. Pretty girl, until her eye was hanging out by a thread of tendon and her brain was plastered over a wall.
Not really.
Then why would you remember me, friend? You've forgotten far more important people than me.
What's your game, friend?
I don't have a game, John. Listen, sometimes I just wish I'd known more about life. Wish I'd had better guidance. A friend of mine, he's drunk as a skunk in the saloon on Thieves' Landing. I think he's gonna be unfaithful to his dear wife. Why don't you head over there and see if you can advise him how best to proceed?
What do you think I am?
I know what you are, John. Just if you've got the time, friend. What are you waiting for? Don't tell me you've gone soft in your old age. Go, John, go. Or are you not the man I thought you were?
Challenge my masculinity again. Oh, gosh. The quest line's so good. There will be further interactions with him. I also want to shake the hand of whoever wrote that character from Rockstar. Oh, God.
It's just me and you, partner.
Damn. Well, at least get a little bit of money. What's up, Raven Pump? Get on Red Dead 2. Nope, not yet. I know that was close. But welcome in, Raven Pump. I do have Deadeye now. I always forget about it. Every time I ever play this game, I always forget that I have Deadeye. Come here, horsey. Thank you for the follow, Raven. I very much appreciate it. Welcome to the most fabulous community on Twitch, by far. By the way, shout out again to my lurkers. I see you, and you're awesome. It certainly is, Musty. Do you have any hypothesis about why that may be? Alright, Bonnie. Let's talk to Bonnie McFarlane. Tired, John?
Excuse me, Mr. Marston. Have you seen my father anywhere?
No.
He went out this morning to ride the land.
He was earlier,
Supposed to be
Krabby.
back hours ago. I don't know. The ranch hands have been out looking, but so far they found nothing.
Well, come on, let's go look for him.
Come on, let's see if we can find the old goat.
Come here, horse.
Whoa there!
Come on.
Video game characters bother you much for how poorly written they often are? Nah, Vex. Yeah, the thing I think that bothers me sometimes about video game characters is that they're written as tropes, but I know that, like, I mean, there's only so much you can do from a character perspective, but I do very much enjoy more characters that are dynamic, and I don't think there's a lot of dynamic characters in video games. But I wouldn't say it bothers me at how simplistic they are. I think if you rely on too many stereotypes in a game, it's not cool, but...
Either from sickness or foolish choices.
And the other one?
He left for the east and never came back. Must be getting on for 10 years ago now. He's a high and mighty banker.
We'll find out, Musty.
His last letter.
He should be here, helping you and your pa.
I don't want his help. He can live his life any way he wants. But when I see those city fellers coming in on the railway, all dressed up like a sore toe, I fear a little for his soul. He switched his saddle for a tie, and that's fine. I just never met a man in a tie I could trust.
I play on Xbox, Raven.
Look, I think I see someone.
It must be playful because it sounds good on my end.
Come on, let's hurry. Daddy, what happened?
Nothing nice. Rustlers, I guess. Maybe the Baller twins, that bunch. Now you head back to the ranch right now. Fetch your wagon.
Yes, sir.
Marston, you watch after her.
Ooh, he trusts me with his daughter. She doesn't need me to look out after her.
Watch out.
She got herself.
What could have happened to those poor men? And their horses were dead too.
I think we should get back there as soon as we can.
Who could have done something like that?
Your boss seemed to have an idea who it was.
I hope so too, playful. That would be no bueno. What kind of speakers are you running?
I've got a good mind to head over to Pike's Basin myself.
I don't think that's a good idea.
And you're no better. How many men have you killed?
Do you really want to know?
It's disgusting.
You never met the men I killed.
I heard the way you talked about that gang you were in. Like there was some twisted morality.
There
to
we
what you
go.
did.
We all have a code. Only some of us don't realize.
The outlaw with the code? How wonderfully romantic. The
Bonnie
reluctant murderer,
Bonnie
the
ain't putting
noble
up no
criminal.
shit.
There's nothing more depressing than a man who's found a way to think the bad into good.
You're up.
Look, Mr. Marston, the barn is on fire. Come on, boy.
Ooh, here we go.
Easy now.
Somebody get them horses out! Put it out!
The doors are blocked. We need to find another way in.
Another way in it is.
Try and get in through the loft, Mr. Marston. Climb up the windmill. Come on.
Los caballos! It's getting worse!
Oh yeah, that ain't cheap, playful. Let's go.
We gotta get to the horse! This ain't working!
Time to be a hero. No questions asked.
Help me, will you?
Alright, come on, John. Ooh, it's hot in here. It's hot in here. Hot, 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 hot.
He did it. Now get the horses out.
Bonnie, no.
Más agua!
Mr. Marston, I can't go back in there. Give it a slap.
Get out. Get out of here.
Get that horse.
Oh. Oh boy. What's going on? Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Ba-bam. Woo. Woo-wee.
You sure know how to handle yourself. Thanks, Marston.
Yes, John, thanks. Well, you say.
Ooh, that's the first time she's called me John.
Got chores to attend to. Hey, hold on a
Some
second
budding
there.
intimacy.
Since
I could, Miss McFarland. Sorry about all the damage. That gang seems to really want you out of here.
Yeah, well, my father fought Indians. I scarcely think we're gonna be frightened by some white trash.
White trash can be pretty frightening.
Well, they don't frighten me.
Good.
John, my family owes you a great debt.
I think you got enough debt. You saved my life. All I ask of you is this. If I get back home and get my farm started back up, you'll sell me some cattle. I prefer doing business with people I know.
Of course, Mr. Marston. It'd be my pleasure.
Oh, and she's back to Mr. Marston.
Well, you get some rest. I've got to go see how my father's bearing up.
Uh-oh. Getting famous. The Undead Nightmare playful? I actually never played the zombies. I never bought that DLC. But probably not. I'd probably go to Red Dead 2. Alright. Ooh. Alright, friends. I'm getting sleepy. So I'm gonna go. Gonna go to bed. But oh, alright, so it's not long. But I had a lot of fun tonight hanging out with all of you. I had a lot of fun talking about my approach to anxiety. There it is again. Some probably are looking at this going, what the hell is that? Check out the video on demand. But you all are the greatest part of my night. Well, like I said, when I come home and see my fiance, that's the greatest part of my night. But you all are a very, very close second. I love spending so much time with you. To all who are new in here, I'm really glad that you hung out with us. This is such a wonderful, wonderful place. But you all really do make my night, and I'm so grateful to have so many of you in here. You did, Sammy. You made it to the end. But as I always say before I leave, and I mean it very much, you matter, your experiences are valid, and don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. And I will be back tomorrow night, normal time, and believe me, I will very much be looking forward to it. So I hope you all have a good night, morning, or day, wherever you are, and I'll catch you next time. Adios.